What's up, y'all? Today we're talking about mid-game macro for burst mages. Burst mages are champions like Vex, Lissandra, Annie, Ahri, Zoe, champions like this. It's also very, very similar to mid-game macro for assassins. So if you play a melee assassin, champions like Fizz, Zed, Kiana, Akali, it's very, very similar, and this will apply to you. In this video, we're going to talk about, what is mid-game, what are our strengths, we're going to cover some general rules, and I'm going to show y'all some examples and some core ideas. So let's go ahead and start with our strengths. So when we're playing a burst mage or an assassin, it's important to know the things that we have going for us. So one of the first things is our mobility. Every burst mage or assassin has really good mobility. Annie has her W, Annie has her E, Ahri has her W, her alt, Lissandra has her grab, her E, Zed has W, Akali has her ER. So all these champions have good mobility. That's a key point. We also have good 1v1 potential. If we think about a burst mage or an assassin versus, an ADC, 1v1, we're going to win. Against a support, 1v1, we're going to win. Against most mid laners, like if we're playing into a control mage or a poke mage, we're probably going to come out on top in that isolated 1v1. So we have good 1v1 potential. We also have very good burst damage, and that burst damage is going to make us very good at flanking and one-shotting low health people, right? So since it's burst damage, the tanks are going to be able to survive and overcome that. But the low health people, the ADCs, the other assassins, the supports, they're just going to die to it. So that makes us very good at flanking. And since we have bad sustained damage, bad damage per second, we have burst over that. We're actually very bad at playing a front to back team fight, right? So if their tank is here and your tank is on the other side and you're sitting here trying to hit the tank, we're very, very bad at that because we just don't have the DPS to burn through them. This means in the mid game, being mid lane is scary. Often with my burst mage and assassin clients, I tell them past lane phase, you never want to be in this area from the middle of the lane, actually maybe a little bit closer to your tower, from here to your base. You never want to be in this area. If you're in this area, we have probably mispositioned because that's going to facilitate us playing a front to back fight, and we don't want that. We want to flank into that. So let's say that the fight's happening in mid lane. You're going to want to come at it from an angle here, just like in this picture. You're going to want to come at it from this angle. You're going to want to shove bottom first and then flank in behind from this angle. These are the angles we really, really like. The way that we get these angles is we don't go through mid. All right, so this little area in the middle here, this is like no man's land. We don't go this way. We go through the jungle, right? So let's say there's a fight happening mid lane. We're going to come out on this diagonal right where this Andy's going. And then what this is going to do is it's going to give you access to one-shot the backline. It's going to give you access to these choke points where you get to zone off other squishies. Right here we can see Annie's coming down this way. Lucian can't get into this fight just because Annie's standing here. Now, Kiana can't go in or she dies to Annie. Lucian can't come to the fight or she dies to Annie. Annie has complete control of this situation because she put herself in a good spot. Now, just imagine in this same scenario if Annie was under her tower. Well, now Lucian has free access to mid and they can push you guys in, and Annie doesn't get access to stun anybody. That's what burst mages are all about. We want to give ourselves good flank spots. This also means that when we want to start farming, because in the mid game, our ADC is often going to take mid. We don't want to farm mid. That's scary for us. It's going to facilitate us playing in a bad way. It's going to facilitate the front to backs. So where do we get our farm? You got to go to the side lane. So after this play gets made and Annie flanks in, where's Annie going to go? She's going to go to this bot wave, right? And now, when she makes this play and these guys all reset, everybody in mid's going to reset. Annie's going to spend this time going bottom. And by the time we're done pushing this wave in, people are going to be back in mid lane and we can flank up to it nicely. Look at this. It gives us our really good angles. So the biggest key to playing good macro as a burst mage or an assassin is get into the side lane. Get into the side lane. So here's a good question. When do we get into the side lane, right? When does mid game actually begin? So mid game typically begins when people start changing lanes. Well, when do people start changing lanes? For us, we want to abuse our strengths as early as possible. So the second that we can take a side lane, we should. Now, how early that is in high ELO games, it can be as early as like 10 minutes. But very generally, when these towers fall, when a tier 1 tower falls, your bot lane's going to start moving through the map, and that's your opportunity to go steal the side lane from them. And then you can push the side lane, and then you can flank mid, and we start that really good pattern of macro. Another good timer is around 14 minutes, because at 14 minutes, tower plates fall off, which again is going to incentivize the bot lanes to move. That's going to open up the side lane for us to take it. But the general rule is, if your team's not playing correctly and people aren't moving at the first tower or at 14 minutes, just whenever you have an opportunity to take a side lane past 10 minutes, take it. We want to abuse our advantages early. We want to open up these flank angles. Oh, another reason we like the side angle is because we like the 1v1s, right? And in the side lane, you're more isolated. Where in mid lane, you have to play a front to back fight. So it also helps us search for picks when we go down here, because if somebody shows up, we might be able to just one-shot them. The side lane's amazing. It usually happens when a tier 1 tower falls or around 14 minutes. The lower elo it is, the later it tends to happen. So if you're in bronze, maybe silver, gold, you're going to notice that people don't actually start swapping around lanes until 16 minutes, maybe even a little bit later. But at this time, you got to make sure you're getting into a side lane. We cannot be walking mid. If you're resetting past 15 minutes, you cannot walk mid as a control mage, or as a burst mage or an assassin. And you can see in these notes here, I'm writing in all caps, we gotta get out of mid lane. The biggest macro mistake I see with assassin players is we linger mid too long, and it denies us doing our job how we want to do it. So play your game, abuse your strengths. So I got a couple of examples here and core concepts. So these examples are illustrating a core idea that I want you guys to keep in mind when you're trying to execute this. So this core concept is as far as possible. When we're looking for these flanks, you want to flank into the fight. So your team's sieging mid, right? We know we can't be mid with them. This is no man's land. We can't be here. We want to flank into it. The way that we get the best flank angles is we get as far past as we can, as deep into enemy lines as we can get. So here we can see we have all this vision control. Annie gets to push up really deep into the enemy jungle. And now, look at what this gives us. This gives us really good control over these choke points again. And it gives us really good access into flanking mid again. This is really, really good. So as far as possible. This also means that we need Oracle Lens, the red trinket, the scanner trinket. Because when you're this deep, you want to make sure that you're not standing on a bush, or they can all kind of get the jump on you and we don't apply any pressure. So we need to upgrade scanner in the mid game when we start roaming, so we can take these really good spots and just sit here. So this is really, really good fundamental macro. Core concept 2 is, a common question and a natural question after hearing this information is, well, what side lane do we go to? And the short answer is you go to the side lane on your strong side. Well, what's your strong side? It's where your resources are at. So it's where your champions are at. It's where your vision is at. So as Annie's coming out of base here, we can see our jungler's bottom, our vision's bottom, and our team's mid. So where's Annie going to go? She's going to go bottom. And that way, if a fight breaks out here, or here, or here, we're closer to it. We can flank into it nicely. If Annie decides to steal top, she's putting herself in a losing position where not only are we not going to be able to impact the game against Udyr, but we won't have access to the fights because the fights are so far away. So we won't get to flank in like we want. When we're deciding what lane to go to, we have to ask ourselves questions like, what's our strong side? Where are our resources? What's the next play we want? What's the next objective? So in a lot of cases, Dragon will be coming up soon. And if your team's ahead, you guys will want it. So we'll say, okay, let's go bottom and contest Dragon. In this situation, Herald's up, but it looks like this team has decided to give Herald, and we're looking to play on the bot side. So that's where Annie goes. Play on your strong side. Okay, these were some fundamental mid-game macro concepts for burst mages and assassins. Let me know if you have any questions, especially if they're specific to your champion or any unique scenarios you'd like to ask about. Leave them in the comments. I hope this was helpful. Let me know what other kinds of videos and concepts you guys would like to see covered. I appreciate y'all watching. Y'all have a blessed night. Peace.